was standing in the hallway, rope still around his neck. And this time, he wasn't a dream. What you're about to hear is not fiction. It's not a campfire story. It's not something someone made up for attention on the internet. This is what happened to a real person in a real house in the state of Indiana. I need you to understand something. The man who lived through this, he didn't leave because he wanted to. He left because whatever was inside that house was starting to leave marks on his body while he slept. This story was shared anonymously on Reddit, posted in the dead of night by someone who clearly hadn't slept in days. The writing was raw, desperate, real. The kind of post you read at 2 a.m. and then immediately check every corner of your room. His name, the name we'll use tonight, is Caleb Morrison, 29 years old, from a small town outside of Gary, Indiana. Caleb worked remotely, graphic design, quiet guy, kept to himself. He wasn't the type to believe in ghosts. He wasn't the type to scare easily. He was the type who needed a fresh start, a new place, a quiet house, something affordable, something simple. He found it in late autumn, a single-story home on the edge of a residential street, pale gray siding, old oak trees in the yard, the kind of house that looks tired, like it's been waiting for something for a very long time. The realtor called it full of character. She wasn't wrong. The moment Caleb walked through that front door and shut it behind him, something shifted. Not in the house, in him. A heaviness, right in the center of his chest, like a hand pressing down from the inside. He told himself it was just moving stress, the exhaustion of loading boxes, the anxiety of a new city. He was wrong. The first full day, he went into the kitchen to make coffee. One of the upper cabinet doors was hanging open, wide open. He was certain he'd closed it. He remembered closing it. He shut it again, checked the latch, and moved on. The next morning, same cabinet, open again. He told himself the latch was old. The wood was warped. Old houses do old house things. Then he was sitting in the living room that evening, laptop open, headphones in, and over the music, he heard it. A slow creak, then a soft click. He pulled one earbud out. The kitchen was silent. He walked in. The cabinet was open. He hadn't moved from the couch. That night, Caleb went to bed early. He was tired. He wanted to sleep. He did not sleep. It started around midnight. Footsteps in the hallway just outside his bedroom door. Not normal footsteps. Not the pop and groan of an old house settling. These were deliberate, slow, dragging, like someone trying very hard not to be heard, but failing. Step, step, then silence, right outside his door, just standing there, on the other side of the wood. Caleb lay frozen in his bed, eyes open, staring at the ceiling, listening, barely breathing. He had no pets, no roommates, no one had a key to his house. But something was in that hallway, and it was waiting. This happened almost every night after that. The footsteps, the stop, the silence at the door. Caleb started sleeping with the lights on, then with a kitchen knife on the nightstand. Neither helped, because then the dreams started. The first bad one came on a Tuesday. Caleb woke up screaming. In the dream, he was in his own bed, in his own room, everything exactly as it was. But the room was freezing. Not just cold, freezing. The kind of cold that gets inside your bones and stays there. He looked up, and there was a man, hanging from the ceiling directly above him, rope around his neck, body swaying, barely, just enough. His face was purple, swollen beyond recognition, eyes wide open and bulging, staring straight down at Caleb. And then, very slowly, his head turned. Despite the broken neck, despite the rope, his head turned, and his mouth opened, like he was trying to say something, like he was trying to say a name. Caleb's name. He woke up gasping, soaked in sweat, heart slamming against his ribs. It took him a full minute to remember where he was. He never really forgot that face. After that night, the hanging man was in almost every dream. Sometimes he was in the hallway, dangling from the ceiling, blocking the only exit. Sometimes he was in the kitchen, rope tied to the overhead light fixture, something dark dripping from his feet onto the tile below. But the worst one, Caleb said, was when the man was inches above his face, close enough to feel the cold radiating off his skin. The rope creaked with his weight. Black liquid dripped from the corners of his open mouth, slow, steady, onto Caleb's face. And it burned. He couldn't move, couldn't scream, couldn't close his eyes. And then the dead man's fingers, long, pale, ice cold, reached down and brushed Caleb's cheek. He jolted awake, and that morning, standing in the bathroom mirror, there were 3 fresh scratches across his chest. He hadn't had them when he went to bed. He stood there staring at his own reflection for a long time. Caleb wasn't a religious man, he'll tell you that himself, but desperation will make you reach for things you'd normally dismiss. He drove to the nearest store and bought a handful of wooden crosses, hung one above his bed, one by the front door, one in the hallway, one in the kitchen. He thought it might help. It made things considerably worse. 2 nights later, Caleb woke to a loud thump. The cross above his bed was on the floor. Not just fallen, turned upside down. The nail was still in the wall. The cross had been removed from the nail, flipped, and placed face down on the floor. He hung it back up, told himself the vibrations from a passing truck must have knocked it loose. The next morning, the hallway cross was upside down, then the kitchen one. No matter how many times he fixed them, he'd find them inverted again. Turned, reversed, like something was making a point. Then one afternoon he came home from the grocery store, and every single cross in the house, all 4 of them, were flipped upside down, at the same time, while he was gone. Caleb sat down in the middle of the living room floor, and for the first time since moving in, he let himself think the thing he'd been refusing to think. Something is in this house, and it knows I'm here. The activity escalated after that, fast. Cabinet doors would slam so hard the frames shook. Not once, not twice, over and over in rapid succession, like something furious on the other side. The footsteps no longer just came at night. They followed him, room to room, in daylight, while he was on work calls, while he was eating, while he stood at the kitchen sink washing dishes. Step, step, right behind him. And then the touching started. Ice-cold hands on his shoulder, fingers brushing the back of his neck. The kind of cold that doesn't feel like a draft. It feels like contact, intentional contact. The whispers became voices. His name, said clearly, from inside the walls. And sometimes, late at night when the house was completely still, low laughter, crawling through the walls, getting closer, then farther, then closer again. Like whatever it was circling him. If you're listening to this right now, and this kind of darkness speaks to something in you, subscribe to Temple of Terrors, because the stories we find here, the ones shared in the middle of the night by people who are barely holding it together, those are the ones that don't stay on the screen. They follow you home. It was a Thursday night when everything broke open. 3 a.m. Caleb woke to a sound he'd never heard before. Every cabinet in the kitchen slamming. All of them at once. Open, shut, open, shut. Rapid, violent, relentless. Like something in that kitchen had completely lost control. Caleb sat up in bed. He told himself not to go out there. Every part of his body told him not to go out there. But the sound wouldn't stop. He got up. He opened the bedroom door. The hallway was dark. The cabinet slamming had stopped. Complete silence. And at the far end of the hallway, just at the edge of where the darkness swallowed the light from his room, he was there. The hanging man, fully visible, standing, rope still around his neck, head tilted at that horrible angle that no living neck can make. Not a shadow, not a shape. There. And as Caleb stood frozen in his doorway, the hanging man took one slow, dragging step toward him. That same horrible step from the nightmares. Caleb slammed his bedroom door, locked it, pushed the dresser in front of it. He sat on the floor with his back against the dresser, knees to his chest, barely breathing, listening. Slow, dragging, right up to the other side of the door. And then silence. Caleb did not move until the sun came up. That morning, he found new scratches on his arms, long ones, like fingernails dragged from elbow to wrist. He hadn't felt them happen. He had no explanation. He packed a bag, then another. Then he just started loading his car, whatever fit, whatever he could grab without going back to certain rooms. He didn't clean the place. He didn't give proper notice. He didn't call the landlord. He placed his keys on the kitchen counter, walked out the front door, got in his car, and drove. He says he didn't look in the rearview mirror until he was 2 miles away. He doesn't say what he saw when he finally did. Caleb Morrison is okay now. He's staying with family. He sleeps with the lights on. He still has nightmares. The scratches healed, but he told Reddit, and I want you to hear this clearly. He said the worst part wasn't the scratches. It wasn't the footsteps. It wasn't even seeing the hanging man standing in his hallway at 3 a.m. The worst part was the feeling that it already knew him, that it had been waiting, long before Caleb ever moved in, and that maybe it's still waiting for the next one. No one knows the history of that house. The listing has no disclosures. The street looks normal on Google Maps. The yard still has those old oak trees. Somewhere in Indiana tonight, that house is sitting quiet. Pale gray siding, dark windows, And somewhere inside, in a hallway that smells like old wood and cold air, something is standing very still, listening, waiting to hear a key turn in the front door, waiting for the next person who needs a fresh start. Something affordable, something simple, something quiet. This has been Temple of Terrors. If this story unsettled you the way it should, subscribe, because we don't just find these stories, we find the ones nobody else will touch. The ones where the person who posted them deleted their account 3 days later. The ones that end with scratches that weren't there when they went to sleep. Stay afraid.